If you're reading this, I hope you take it seriously. I didn't. I thought it was a joke, a hazing ritual, or some overly paranoid safety protocol. But now I know better. There's no coming back from what I've done. My only hope is that this message makes it to someone who can do what I couldn't. Warn the next person, or maybe destroy that place entirely. It all started with an online job posting. I'd been jobless for months, with eviction hanging over my head like a guillotine. My savings had dried up, my fridge was empty, and I was on the verge of asking my parents for money, something I'd sworn I'd never do. So when I saw the ad, I jumped on it immediately. It read, "Night security needed. Immediate start, high pay, no experience required." It was perfect. Too perfect. But desperation makes you ignore red flags. I called the number and expected a voicemail or some faceless HR drone. But instead, a man answered on the first ring.
Red Security Services. How can I help you?
His voice was calm, professional, but there was an odd urgency beneath it, like he'd been waiting for this call. "I'm calling about the night watchman job," I said. "Is it still available?"
Yes.
He replied without any hesitation.
Can you start tonight?
I blinked. "Don't you want an interview or background check or—"
That won't be necessary.
He interrupted.
Just come to the address I'm emailing you. Be here by 8 p.m. sharp.
He hung up before I could ask any more questions. Seconds later, the email popped up in my inbox. The pay was higher than anything I'd ever made, even at my last job. I didn't need to think twice. The building was tucked away in an industrial area on the edge of town. It looked ordinary enough. Gray concrete walls, faint graffiti on one side, a few trucks parked out front, but there was something off about it. For one, it was quiet. Too quiet. No hum of machinery, no distant voices, not even the chirp of crickets. Just thick, oppressive silence. I parked and walked to the main entrance, where a tall, wiry man in his 50s was waiting.
You must be Mr. Carter.
He said, extending a hand.
I'm Mr. Rudd. Thank you for coming in such short notice.
His handshake was firm, but his eyes darted around nervously, as if he was expecting someone or something. After a brief introduction, he handed me a flashlight, a set of keys, and a laminated sheet of paper.
Here's your patrol route,
he said, tapping a map on the back of the clipboard he carried.
And these are the rules. Read them carefully and follow them exactly.
I skimmed the list in my mind and frowned. The rules read as follows. 1. Do not enter the basement. 2. At midnight, there may be knocking at the main door. Do not open it under any circumstances. 3. If you see a woman in the hallway, do not engage. Ignore her and continue your patrol. 4. If the light flicker in the storage area, hide under the table and wait until they stabilize. 5. Do not leave the building before 6 a.m. Is this serious? I asked, holding up the laminated sheet.
Yes.
Rudd replied, his tone flat. But why?
It's protocol.
He said, avoiding my gaze.
Our clients are very particular in security. Just follow the rules and you should be fine.
His answer didn't satisfy me, but the pay was too good to argue. All right, I said. Anything else I should know? He hesitated, then said,
Keep your radio on. I'll be monitoring the cameras remotely. If anything unusual happens, call me immediately.
Before I could ask what unusual meant, he turned and walked to his car.
Good luck, Mr. Carter.
He called over his shoulder. For the first few hours, everything was fine. Boring even. I walked the patrol route, checked the doors, and spent most of the time scrolling through my phone. The warehouse was massive. Aisles of towering shelves filled with crates and boxes, all coated in a thin layer of dust. By 11 p.m., I started to feel silly. The rules were probably some elaborate prank or way to scare new hires. Still, I followed them, just in case. After all, the building was under surveillance, and I didn't want to give Rod any reason to dock my pay. Then, at exactly midnight, I heard it. 3 sharp knocks on the main door. I froze, flashlight in my hand. It was probably Rod testing me, I thought, or some drunk who'd stumbled into the wrong place. Still, the sound sent a chill down my spine. I approached the door cautiously and called out. Hello? Who's there? No answer. Just more knocking. I checked the cameras, but the feed showed nothing. The hallway outside was empty. Rod! I said into the radio. Someone's knocking on the door. Static. I waited, hoping the noise would stop. It didn't. It grew louder, more insistent. My hand hovered over the lock. Then I remembered the rule. Do not open it. I stepped back, my heart pounding. The knocking stopped at 12:05 a.m. as suddenly as it had started. At 1:30 a.m., I saw her. I was walking down the west wing when I noticed movement at the far end of the hall. A woman stood there, partially obscured by shadow. Her hair was long and unkempt, covering most of her face. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, watching me. Ma'am, you're not supposed to be here, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She didn't respond. I took a step closer, but something about her felt wrong. Her posture, the way her head tilted slightly to one side. It was unnatural, almost puppet-like. The rule flashed through my mind. Do not engage. I turned and walked away, my hands shaking. The whole time, I could feel her eyes boring into my back. By 2:45 a.m., I was on edge. My nerves were shot, and every sound, every creak and groan of the building felt like a threat. Then, the lights in the storage area began to flicker. I didn't think. I dove onto the nearest table, clutching my flashlight like a lifeline. The air grew cold, and the room was filled with a low, guttural sound, like metal scraping against stone. Then came the footsteps. They were slow, deliberate, and impossibly heavy, echoing through the space. I couldn't see what was making them, but I could feel its presence. Massive, oppressive, and ancient. The footsteps paused near my hiding spot. I held my breath, praying it wouldn't find me. Finally, the light stabilized, and the room went silent. I stayed under the table for another 10 minutes before daring to move. At 4 a.m., I made my mistake. I was exhausted, my body running on adrenaline and fear. When the knocking started again, I didn't think. I forgot about the rules, the cameras, everything. I just wanted to stop. I unlocked the door. The hallway beyond was empty. No one was there. But as I stepped back inside, I noticed something. Wet footprints on the floor, leading deeper into the building. Panic set in. I grabbed the radio and called Rod, but all I got was static. Then I heard it. Laughter, soft, mocking, and impossibly close. I ran, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The building felt like a labyrinth, twisting and warping as I stumbled through it. Every door I tried was locked. Every hallway seemed to lead back to the same place. At 5:30 a.m., I collapsed in the corner of the office, clutching the flashlight like a weapon. The laughter had stopped, but the silence was worse. It felt alive, like the building itself was watching me. Hmm? I don't remember passing out, but when I woke up, it was daylight. The doors were unlocked, the cameras were off, and the laminated rules were gone. Mr. Rudd never answered my calls. When I went back to the warehouse that night, it was empty. No shelves, no crates, just hollow, echoing space that smelled faintly like burnt wood. No, I see her everywhere. In reflections, in shadows, at the edge of my vision. The knocking hasn't stopped, no matter where I go. If you're reading this, don't take the job. And if you ever hear knocking, don't open the door.
Hey everyone! I hope you enjoyed this spooky story. If you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm just starting out, so your support really motivates me to keep going. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.